Welcome back to The Vocalist. Today I am hearing the band SLAYER for the first time, so we're starting with the song Raining Blood. Here we go. Pause. Oh my goodness. Every time. Metal music. It just... I'm just going to say this every time because at this point it's tradition. I never know what to expect, and yet I'm always like surprised just by the vast array of genres of like, it's just within metal music. I loved this opening. I mean, I think most of us at least love the sound of a good rainstorm, but I love the way it wasn't so abrupt that it just was rainstorm, not rainstorm. You know, we had this really nice segue with percussion, and then I honestly don't remember because my mind is still focused on what came after, so we're going back. I love that song. One more time. This time I was kind of what I'm calling strings, I think. I don't know if it's actual violin or if it was something electronic that was making those noises, but the kind of like eerie, squeaky, screechy sounds. And I don't know how they did it. Maybe it's just because I'm trying to remember like the first experience as opposed to now knowing the beat of the song, because I feel like as soon as I heard dun dun dun, I started kind of pulsing to a beat, and thankfully it was the right one. Like it was almost like they used something that they knew would be intuitive for the listeners. That was the other thing. I loved those harmonies. I love that transition. I mean, just going from that sort of ambiance sound to something that was very concrete with timing and music, and then that oh golly, I think it was like the guitar, just like that constant strumming, but like it was so percussive. I don't know if it was guitar or bass. You guys can let me know. But it was so percussive and it felt so fast already. And then for them to change the timing and make it feel even faster, I think was so brilliant. Ooh, I love that. Oh man. Okay, so vocally, it's very speech-like, and yet it feels like it's so, I don't know. It's like laser focused. There's a lot of grit. So a really interesting texture. It sounds like it sits relatively high in the mouth. The sound we're getting from this vocalist. I like the mix. I like that the vocals are not overpowering the instruments. His diction is great, so I can still understand what's being sung, but I'm still very focused on the instruments, which I'm enjoying, especially with what they just did. Sky is turning red. Return to power, toss near. Follow to me, the sky skips in tears. Abolish the rules made of stone. I like the way they introduced that new theme. So it gave you a beat to enjoy the surprise and think, oh, that's interesting. Ooh, I like that. I'm going to jam out to this now. And then when the vocals come back in, it's not, I don't know. It's like, it's such a short vocal line that it kind of gives way to that instrumental section as well. So you can kind of focus on that. I know I keep pausing. It's just so interesting. There's so much happening. Oh, I love when, I don't know, when it feels like the timing is changing and yet not. And that's what they just did for us here. Like, instead of, I don't know, if you think to yourself, if you're looking at, sheet music and you are thinking like, okay, every 16th note is being like played. And so to just kind of strip that away and do every chord note or something like that, just to make it feel slower, but it's not, it just kind of allows you to settle into something different. Awaiting the hour of reprisal, no time slips away. See, there, I'm gonna have to listen to this a million times because I don't know if I just didn't catch it in the beginning and they sort of led me to where we are now. I'm enjoying that bigger, fuller beat, and yet that pulsing came back in. So except this time I was actually able to stay with that bigger beat. I wasn't like, I don't know, focused on the quicker notes, if that makes sense. Let me play it again.
Through the sky, bleeding its horror, creating my structure. Now I shall rain in blood.
Stop it. Oh, we're going back. I need to catch that again. The way that one theme sort of like tapered out, I found so interesting. Like, it sounds like utter chaos to an extent, but you can sort of latch onto things still. What was it? It's like da 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 or something like that theme that we heard earlier, and it led into this section, I think. Oh golly. I know. But that right before we get this flip or this transition, that's when that da 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 like started to kind of taper out. So I was listening to that and I was like, where's it gonna go? And that's why I think I was so surprised in this next section. I had to make sure there weren't any more surprises at the end. What an interesting choice. The way they sort of segued through the rainstorm at the beginning, like I mentioned, it didn't feel like it was one and then the next, but they did that at the end here, which I found really interesting. And I'm curious, like in live performance, if they do the rainstorm at the end at all, or if it's just a really abrupt ending musically. I don't know. This was such an interesting piece to me, and I think I would love to know more from you guys. I guess what it is, like if you're a fan of Slayer or if you're a fan of metal music, like what it is that drew you to them in the first place. Because of course, we've been through this over the past few years. I talk about like I never listened to metal music growing up. It just was never on my radar. And I always associated it with just like mosh pits and lots of loud noises, and anytime I listen to metal music, there's so much happening that I don't like. I think if I were jumping up and down in a mosh pit, I it would just solely be for the beat, because I would have to like tune my brain off to everything that's happening musically, just because I can't like store all of that in my brain at one time. I know a lot of people can, so maybe that's why they like metal music. I don't know. There's so many interesting transitions. There are so many interesting musical choices, and I think, yes, if I were just on in the background and I was going through my life, I would kind of latch on to the chaos that one could perceive. And yet, if you take a moment to really like listen intentionally, there's just a lot there. And so, I don't know, I'm always interested. Like, sometimes it's the feel of a song or of the music as a whole that like people gravitate towards. Sometimes it's the text and lyrics. It could be a particular, musician that's on stage, or I don't know. There's just so many different elements that make us like certain songs and certain music and artists. But yeah, I'm just always surprised, and maybe I always will be, just because yes, I've been trying to learn more about metal music in the last 3 years, but I had decades before that where I wasn't listening to metal music. So it could take me a while to not be surprised by what I hear. But yeah, this one turned into more of just music review, I guess, vocally. And I think this happened on another recent reaction where I was just so focused on the music, because whatever the singers were doing like aided that, and I couldn't focus on their singing, on like their vocal skills as much, because the piece as a whole just felt like so complete. And I feel it was similar with this. Like, yes, I observed that there were vocals happening, but it was a lot of texture and it was more speech-like, and so it just felt like it was so well aligned with what was happening in the instruments. This is, golly. Yeah, I gotta listen to this a few more times. So that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for this recommendation and for watching with me, and hopefully I will see you next time.